Good morning. Sorry I'm off to a late start here. I apologize. I like to start these at 8:30, and today just a couple things got away from me. So we're here now, and let's rock and roll. Got a lot to cover today. A lot to cover. So let's just jump into it and do the recently viewed. And let me just take this link and make sure that I send this link to a couple different places, and then we're good to go. But I'm going to take questions while we're doing that. Good morning, everyone. Sorry that I'm running late. Hey, Samira. Hey, Shock. Let's go. What's up, Gay Three? Gay Three, pronounce your name for me, please, so I can pronounce it correctly. So, hey, Daniel. Hey, Brandon. All right, let's get to it. So for me, the biggest mover that we should probably be talking about here is going to be, Apple. And I'm just going to start there. Okay. So I like this, and I covered it last night in the top 5, right, to watch. See how you respected this average last night on these earnings? That shows that you have buying. Someone has a level there of buying. The fact that you're just sitting right here on the 50-day leads me to believe that they haven't made a decision on what they're going to do yet. So I would really focus on this if it bounces here and you're looking for a trade. If you go after hours and just watch how we acted, look, let's get rid of these indicators. And everyone knows how I feel about these long red bars once earnings come out. And here's your earnings bar. And this is what's happened. This is your range, right? So this is the range that you should be focused on today. Now, why do I say that? I say that because that's where people with, the algorithms and high frequency traders and people that have the real positions were at. So just watch these levels. I think that's really important. But it was a supply chain issue that really drove them off. And I think that that's really important to understand why that happened. And then based upon that, also, figure out what you're going to, how you're going to play that, if that's something that you want to play, right? Not everybody's going to want to play that. And I think that that's important. So that's Amazon, that's Apple. I just want to go, hey, Diane, I just want to go through Amazon very, very quickly. Look, this was a disaster. Again, missing revenues, missing earnings. It looks like their cloud business, AWS, it looks like Microsoft is cleaning their clock. So someone could probably speak better to that is more fundamentally based, but it seems to me that Azure is really beating up AWS as far as growth, which is great for people that are in the newsletter that have the Microsoft position. I think that this is clearly could go up again today just on that news. When you see that, right, that could be a driver today for Microsoft. And you might want to watch Microsoft to see how it acts on that news, because if it acts positive on that, then that's going to be a really big deal, right? If Microsoft goes up on this news, that's pretty much everything that you're looking for. So let's see how that plays out. But this Amazon, just see if it does get down to this 32.16 level. If that does happen, it's definitely something that you're going to, want to take a look at and see what you can do from there. I do like the name a lot, but I think that you had some issues there that we're going to have to address, and we'll see how they answer that. So that's really what I have to go over. I'll take any questions. We can go start going over names that everyone else is interested in. I don't know that there's an option trade there, Zane. Those options are very, very thin. Do I think there's a trade there? Yeah, I do. I mean, team crushed numbers. I mean, they absolutely crushed numbers. And, it's one of those things where you have to look at it. To me, you almost have to buy it after market because of how it trades, but it trades so thin, right? So you don't know when you're stepping into it. Like here's the bar, here's the first 15 minutes, right? And now you see how you're breaking out above that. The issue is that, you go through like these twillos and which goes down like 60, 70 points at night. So it's hard to buy some of these things after hours because it's very hard to get out of them if you're trading with any size, just because of the volatility on the lower end ones. But I like this a lot. I mean, look, this was last quarter's earnings, right? I mean, you can see what we've been doing. This was last quarter's earnings right here, and you can see what happened. Now look at this quarter. Right here we go again. So clearly something's going on. and it's something that I'd want to be a party to. I just have to figure out how I'm getting in it. I'm not sure that options are the way that I'm going to do that. I may let it set up today and then just try to see if it clears up above that range tomorrow. Because you have to be careful. Like, this bar broke out, looked like it was going to go. And then by the end of the day, you lost 20 points. So you just kind of take that into account. So, just think about that. Hey, good morning, Ro. So, yeah, Riley, I should have probably focused a little bit on it last night, but I was so focused on some of the tech names. This was a really good report. I mean, there's no other way to say it. This was a really, really good report. If you put in your indicators, you can see clearly you're going to be above the 200, which you were fighting with right here. Look how your 8 and 21 are curling up and crossing, right? Your 21 and 50 are going to cross. Your 8 and 200 are going to cross. So, yeah, this could go. I mean, this could still continue to go. They had a really good report. There's no other way to say it. So what I would focus on is, how did we do after hours? Well, you didn't really, you opened up and that was it. So I like it. And I think it could do very well. I think you have to realize you're buying a finance company. So maybe, up 10% is not the move. Maybe see if it comes back down and tests, a level and then goes, right? Maybe that's the move. So let's just see how that goes. And then we can kind of figure it out from there. But I'm not sure that, that's really what we're looking for. I don't like buying financials that are up that much. Let me put it to you that way. I'm more apprehensive. Morning, Anna. Morning, Hamiro. All right, so let's keep going. So IONQ. Let's take a look, Brandon. IONQ. Yeah, I mean, something's going on. I don't know what's moving it, but you're obviously getting some kind of data point. You have earnings coming up. It looks like it's a newer company. It really hasn't any other reports coming out. Let's just throw in the indicators and take a look. Yeah, I mean, how are you doing here? What's your relative volume look like? Yeah, your relative volume is kind of falling off on these breaks up. So that's something to watch. The relative volume should be increasing, or at least another spike while it's doing that. And let's just take a look. Yeah, I mean, look, you have some issues, right? Like, you're getting through those issues, though, aren't you? You got through it here. So, I mean, you got through this 15. I'd make sure that you stay above that 15 on this break. If not, I'd probably be out of it, because that might mean that there's more selling right here. But 1690 looks like your next level. I mean, it's very hard to say, look, some news came out that drove it up, that then drove it down, that then propelled it higher. I just don't know the story. But technically, as long as you're above 15, you look good there. So let's get into LCID Bros AXSM. So let's start here. AXSM. So AXSM, I mean, look, here's your flag, right? Here's your 21-day pointing up. Here's your 8 kind of curling down. I mean, why can't we break the 8-day, right? Like, that would be concerning. The 8 is usually the first to go. We're still below the 200, and you're still, right? You're in this wedge, and you should be breaking out and going up now that you're in this wedge. And that's not what's happening. So maybe wait and see if it curls. Maybe wait and see if we get above that 42.83 level before entering it, right? Maybe see if that happens. That might be a better way to play it. Something to think about. Bros I like, but these breakouts are just collapsing over and over again. And if you look at that, I mean, and you've seen these bars a lot lately, not on just this chart, but out there. Look, this is a gravestone, and gravestone bars usually mean you're at a top. Now, I'm not saying that we know that for emphatically, but if I take out that low on Bros, you need to be out of the trade. You need to go. So hopefully that doesn't happen today. It looks like you're bidding up a little bit right now. You're up like $1. So maybe that'll continue, but you really got to watch those when that happens. You don't want to gravestone at the top of a channel, or at the top of your channel. And technically you're right at the top of your channel now, right? I mean, you're right there. You're right at the top of the channel. So do you really want to be, buying that? Probably not. You probably want to hold off on that, right? LCID. I mean, I'm not going to get into the fundamentals of the company. People kind of probably have an understanding of where I am on that. That doesn't mean you can't trade it, make money with it. Okay, so there's a difference between a trade and something that I want to be in for a long period of time. Okay, I want to be in Tesla for as long as possible. Something like this, I want to be long, but I want to trade it. This volume spike's enormous. When you look into the reasoning behind it, I'm not trying to bash the company, but it's not something that I find sustainable, their comment. So I'm just looking for it from a trade standpoint. If I can get through that 39.78 level, it's probably going to get squeezed again, right? So that's what I would be looking for. I'd be watching that, or if I base in here and then go higher, I'd be looking at something like that too, because you're going to see a push here, right? It's just a question of how big of a push, right? I mean, that's really what you're looking for. How big of a push are you going to see here? And that's really what we're trying to figure out. And we just don't have an answer to that. We just don't know. So, but I would not rule out trading that. ASF. Yeah, Riley had a really, really good report. WIMI. Let's take a look. So, yep. Let's get rid of this. Remove this. And yeah, I mean, look, here's your issue, right? There's your issue. You have to get through that 200-day. Until you got through the 200-day, I probably wouldn't even look at it. It probably wouldn't even be on my radar. Google calls, Cena, you can. Look, the Google calls. I mean, if I was to look at that was the trade when he came out with earnings that day. I mean, that was a really good trade. Until then, now you have to watch and see what you're going to do, right? Because buying calls now, your implied volatility is up, right? Because of the spike, and you need to make higher highs, or else you're just going to get eaten up, right? You're just going to get eaten up by time value and implied volatility depreciation. So you really need to watch this now, right? I mean, and people don't want to hear this, but I'd be looking for it to break a higher high before I would get involved in an option trade here. I'd be wanting confirmation of that before anything, this WMIMI. I mean, I see why everyone's looking at it. Like, you're up $1 today. It's kind of exciting. Maybe it goes, maybe it doesn't. I just want to touch base on that again. I don't know the reason for the move. I don't know if you're going to get a spike out of it or not, but for me, I would just watch how it acts around that 200-day because it's been unable to break that. So just clarification there when I look at it. In regards to buying calls here, I would not. I would wait. Where are you going? You're going to go to the top of this. I mean, that could happen. You could see 10%, but you're going to have to see how that plays out. I wouldn't be in a hurry. Yes, the 2 days ago was the day. MQ DPSD. So MQ, tried yesterday, tried to rally, right? It did. It really tried to rally, and it was just unable to. So let's, look, it is what it is, right? Like, it tried to break out. It didn't break out. This was the level that we were looking for, right? And it didn't happen. So you got through that to 309, and then you just kind of stopped there at that 35, and you rallied up. I actually had a trade in this, and it just did not work. I got stopped out like break even, but it is what it is. It's clearly got some issues now. It's clearly overbought, right? I mean, you could just see people flying out of it. That's all selling. So maybe you're heading back to this 28 level and you're going to bounce off of that and then build and go higher. But that needs to do some work now with these long bars. That really needs some work. That is not the action that you want to see yesterday. That's for sure. DPST, since this broke down and now you're at a different, I think you split it 5-1. You sold off again yesterday, and you really have to watch this because it's so volatile. It's probably better that they did split this, but there's your level, and you've been fighting that level for some time. So, maybe we're going to come back down. We broke the 21 yesterday. Maybe we're coming back down to this 44 level. I don't know. I find the way that banks are trading, very odd. Like, we know they're going to raise rates, right? And we know it's coming, but they're just not getting any kind of forward momentum, like, at all. So, when you see that, it makes you pause, and this would make me pause. To see that we didn't break out again. So, um, let's just keep going. Hey, Zorro, MPWR. So, yeah, it looks to me like that move, right? You were at 549, and is that accurate? You're down 4% now. Is that after hours? Was there earnings? Yep, there was earnings. You're getting an alert to buy this. I wouldn't be buying this. Why am I buying a stock that just collapsed on earnings? I don't know. Maybe it does trade back up. I would sure as heck wait and see how this moves. I'd also want to see how the conference call. Do we know if the conference call already happened? Let me just see something I could tell you in a moment on that. Yeah, the conference call already happened. So what's going to be your driving force today? I don't know why it's down 25 points, but I'd be really careful about just randomly jumping in there, Zora, on that. I don't get that. And I don't see anything that's telling me I need to be involved in that. Chewy and Docs, what's up, Tom? So, yeah, I would MPWR does not make me feel warm and fuzzy. So, here's where you're at. Yeah, you can see what's going on here, right? You ran right to this level. Nobody thought it was going to get to that level, and then it does, right? What you do at that 50-day needs to be resolved, and that's certainly not something that I'm going to be jumping into. Also, I would argue that the majority of their business is online, right? Like almost 90% of their business is online. How are online sales going right now? Comp versus comps, not really good for companies, right? They're having a lot of issues. So, do you think that people are going to buy this ahead of that? Because Amazon did so well? I would be really cautious here with this. And the fact that you rejected exactly at that 50-day tells you that, we know who buys at the 50-day, right? It's institutions. So if they're not buying, why do we want to buy? Docs, you're just in a look. Let's get rid of this. Let's just focus on this for a moment, right? We have a falling wedge, right? And you kind of got to these levels and you're kind of holding them, aren't you? But what's going to happen? We just don't know what's going to happen, right? So based upon that, we need to see this breakout and kind of go from there. And we're going to have to see how that plays out. But right now, I don't see a big hurry to jump in these. I'm not really a fan of either one of those, right now. Spot. Hi, Raphael. Spot, just caveat. We obviously, in the trading group, or whatever the heck we call it. I'm just going to call it community because I can't think of a better name for it. But this was one that we were trading. It was also in that top 5 of 5 list at 278. I like it a lot. I think people are grossly underestimating. I hope it pulls back so I could build like a much larger position. I think people are grossly underestimating the power of this company. I think that it's becoming extremely clear that there is a shift towards Spotify's kind of platform for podcasts. Take a look at that. They're beating Apple, right? People are gravitating towards Spotify and willing to pay. And they have the single largest group of paying services in the world. No one's even close to them, right? And it's not an ad model. It's just pay your $9 or $10 a month. I forget how much I pay. And it works. And they're doing everything right. Their terms of service, everything. It's just they're firing on all cylinders. technically speaking, I've been saying this, I think you're getting to 300. At this point, you're in no man's land, right? Do I really want to buy the stock for 10, 12 points? And I could come back down to this 278 level, down, 9 points. That's not really my kind of trade, 1 for 1, right? I'm all about like trying to find 5 to 1 or greater. That's where, I kind of make my money. This doesn't really do it for me at this level, but any pullback, I would be adding to it. Long term, I think it's gone. If getting through that 300 level, it's going to be significant, and I think it's going to do it. I think it's just a question of time. So, I don't know that it'll crash soon. Once you have shorts trapped, right, it could stay up for a while. What you really need to do with LCID is let it develop, right? So the way that I'm trading LCID, I'll walk you through exactly what my thought process is. Okay. I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know if we're going to stay here. We're going to go to here. Nobody knows yet, right? But I do know that if we break this, I do know this. I do know human behavior, right? We all do. So how are you going to feel if you're short this and it takes out the high, right? You're not going to feel too good. So you're probably going to cover, right? So if you're going to cover there, that means it could push off that level, right? That's why that level is important. But that said, I could base here for 3-4 days and then break that level. Well, that's way more appealing to me because now I have a base and a flag that I'm going to go off of, right? And that's really what I'm looking for. So, but could it fly again? Yeah. Is it going to crash again? I don't know. I don't know. Look, the market can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent. Okay. And I learned that years ago trading. Like just because I say something along the lines, and that's why I say take what I say fundamentally with a grain of salt. $55 billion company. What are they coming out with? 10 cars? So 100 cars? I don't know. I mean, it's a cool looking car, but I don't get it. I'd rather have the Porsche or the Audi. So I don't know. I can't say that it's going to crash based upon that. Is it a long-term holding for me? No. Will I buy it if it breaks that level? Probably, yeah. Do I think it's going to crash right away? I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure on that. That's a lot of volume coming in. That's a lot of players coming in. I mean, you've never seen anything like that. That usually does not go away. Let's just put that in perspective on what you're saying so you can understand where I'm going with it. Okay. That's the level that you're at, over 300 million shares yesterday. This was your second highest, 172. You're 2x over your highest volume ever. Okay. Put it in perspective. Okay. You're 7 times on a relative volume basis. That's really hard to ignore, right? So from a fundamental standpoint, we can make an argument, but you can't trade fundamentals. You can't make money off just rationalizing fundamental story. You need to look at technicals because that's how they trade. And for me, breaking over that, I would look at a long. So I hope that's clear. Docs, we did. So, hi, Rob. Thanks for that. I appreciate that. If everyone could I'm trying to get more people in here and just share this more so people can have more of a game plan. We're not really giving advice. We're basically talking charts. And I think more people need to understand how to look at charts. So if you could give it a like and share it, I would appreciate it. Thanks, Rob. Can you shop and go after the rally? Can shop go up after the rally? Yes, it can. Shop was one of the bright spots yesterday. So what you're going to want to watch with Shop is exactly what it did. Let's get rid of this and let's focus. You closed above the 50-day and you bounced off the 200-day. You could not have had a better day for Shop, right? Across the board. You got through all these moving averages and you got right to your resistance point, which is 1500, which is from back here, right? And we all know how this works. We all know that support and resistances flip, and that is clearly a level to watch. I would argue that if you get above 1500, you should be looking at this because this could really go, right? And let me just show you this. This is why it's so important to know how to draw these support and resistance lines properly. There's actually a video I did on this. You might want to watch it. It's only like 10 minutes long, but look at this, right? I mean, you can see, like, let's get rid of this. Let's pretend we don't need moving averages and we're just going to use what's going on here. right? You're at a crossroads. You're at a big crossroads here. And I think you're going to go. Now, you have some other little parts that you could just look at and kind of quantify what's going on here, right? Like, look at that. Let's get rid of this, right? Put that down here. But look at that. Okay, you're going to do something. Now, what that something is remains to be seen. But if I was a betting person, which I am, I'm going to bet that it's going to break out here. That's what I think is going to happen. I think over 1,500, this breaks out. And I think it's definitely something to look at. You know, they were one of the brightest spots in social media and purchasing out there, period. Nothing was even close to them as far as how they performed. And, you know, that might benefit this company too. These two companies trade in tandem. So just watch that. This one really hasn't acted on it yet. And you have earnings coming up, but you just might want to watch this. Like, this usually trades with that, right? And if that's the case, you could see a bounce here. It sure as heck doesn't look like it, but you might see a bounce here. Let's just keep going. What else do we have? Hey, Emma, good morning. So spot flipped its trend line, another short-term trade here. I think that when you're over that 278, you have that trade. Hey, Terry. Prague. Yeah, I mean, it's been grinding, right? I mean, this was the level we looked at it before. So, I mean, you're killing it on it, who's ever in it. You know, no, I'm not crazy about these little names because look at the wicks. Like, why do I mean, but yeah, I mean, you've absolutely crushed it on it from that break. Actually, that break's not right there. That break would be a little higher, be the here. So, but you're still crushing it. So, I mean, could it keep going? Sure. I mean, get above that level. I mean, you can see where your resistance is. Right? You can see how you've rejected there 3 times. Sure, if it gets above that level, maybe it goes again. It's just not my kind of trade. Doesn't mean it doesn't work. AUPH. You know, for some reason I was looking at that yesterday. I'm not sure why I had this on my radar, but I did. Must have had news here, flu, and then you broke out. I think there was talks of them being acquired or something like that, right? Wasn't there talks of that? Someone was talking about looking at acquiring them. So, you know, maybe that's going to happen. Maybe it's not. I don't really. I could see if I could find that story very quickly. But overall, I mean, the stock looks great, right? It's acting very well. Yeah, GlaxoSmithKline, I'm just looking at one of my news sources. GlaxoSmithKline are involved in a review process to buy the stock. And they're saying that the deal should happen around $32. You know, look, if it's a $32 deal, if they do it for stock and not cash, which a lot of these companies do, it could actually drop from here. So, you know, I'd be careful. It's not something I'd be rushing into. Yeah, Jen, I think you're there. I took a position yesterday in PayPal. And I think you're there. I think they've taken it enough to the woodshed. I actually believe I even covered it, and I have to go look and see if I put it in last night's top 5, but I think I did. I like this. I like what I saw. This was actually green yesterday, and then they closed it red for some reason. But the open was 237, and the close was 236.83. That's what they're saying. The final close was. You know, I mean, essentially, I had it as green, but it doesn't really matter. You're basically just open and close same spot. We know wicks are price rejection. We reject it. If this gets over, right, this 238 today, right, if PayPal gets over 238 today, I think you're going to see some buying step in there. That's my opinion of it. I think you'll see some people step in there and you'll see some buying. That's just my opinion of it. I like it here. Now I'm coming into earnings, so whether or not I stay with it into earnings, which is 2 weeks from now, right? It's 29th, so I'd probably make it to Monday, I think. But you have to watch that. But yes, absolutely. So keep that in mind. I like it. Hey, Anita, Amoeba Stipfi. Let's take a look at MVIS. No, I wouldn't go near this. I mean, did it come out with earnings and it's rallying based upon that? No, I would not be going near this. Clearly, there's something wrong with it. I'm not saying it doesn't work as far as like a quick trade, but let's just watch that. So SNOG, MVIS, I would avoid. Did my dyslexia kick in? Did I spell that wrong? SNOG. I don't have that symbol. Maybe you typed it in wrong. But MVIS I would avoid. Cameron, good morning. TMUS puts. T-Mobile puts from the downside. Yeah, I mean, that just looks like an outright disaster. I don't know how earnings are going to go. Like here you were with the one earnings and then you spiked, collapsed, right? Rallied on earnings. So you're playing the earnings game. This looks pretty washed out for earnings. So I'm not saying that it's not going to work. I'm just saying it's pretty washed out. So you just might want to see how it goes. That's not something that I'm going to it's not something I'm going to buy. That's for darn sure. But I mean, maybe it sells down on this. Look, if you really want to play it and watch, I mean, if you start breaking that level, which it looks like you're going to, yeah, long term, it might be a short still. So something to consider for sure. Hey, Jack, I like Ford a lot. Let's take a look here. That's not really, that's not really the move that you want, right? It's just not. It's not overly surprising. I mean, this is how it trades. Let's see how it goes. You really don't have the evening star pattern, right, for that to be an evening star. I mean, essentially what you did was this. Right? Essentially, you just pulled back to the high and flipped that to support. So if I was in this and I was concerned, maybe 1670 would have me a little concerned that I'm going to fill that gap a little bit more. I thought the earnings were outstanding and I was very happy with them. But we sold down and it is what it is. But I still like it. I still like the name and I think that it's going to be around for a long time. I think that, I'm surprised that more people are not catching on to what they're doing in the EV space. Just doesn't make any sense to me. How people are just avoiding it. OCGN calls. So you're playing options on the fact that maybe they get approval, maybe they don't. Look, I mean, the only thing I could say to you is it's either going to work or it's not going to work. And where that stock goes on that news, I have absolutely no idea. But you're playing a binary event. So you're going to have to look at those options and be willing to lose everything that you put in them, right? That's what you have to understand. You're not going to get out of them. There's going to be no bid. So if the who for some reason says no, you're going to have an issue. And you need to go out at least a month. Because everyone thinks that this stuff happens in a day or two. It doesn't. It takes longer. So, but understand no matter what you put into it, you have to realize that it could just go to zero. So KKR, yeah, KKR's been just on fire, hasn't it? So, and it doesn't look like there's any stopping it. I mean, it just looks like a monster. I don't know that I'm buying it going into earnings. I mean, maybe that's why it's trading this way, like somebody knows something. But I mean, off this break, from 68, you're up 10 points, right? I mean, you're up almost 20% on that name. It's nice. It's a nice trade. I'm not buying it ahead of earnings, but it does look great, Anita. Let's just do IRBT, DXCM, MSTR. All right, let's start here because this one had earnings. And I know there's people out there that are looking at this. So we had earnings. Okay, the earnings were actually fairly decent. Stocks trading up on that news. Look, maybe this works, maybe it doesn't. I know a lot of people that are in this because they want exposure to Bitcoin. You'd have to actually go and calculate it out. I haven't done that. You'd have to look at the valuation of the company versus what the Bitcoin position is and figure it out. I haven't done that. To me, when they started coming out with this kind of stuff, these kinds of futures, it kind of makes it's pointless if you want to play Bitcoin to be playing any of these other names unless you want to be in that business, right? I'm not saying it's not an asset you can't appreciate. I'm just simply saying that I think you need to take a look at it and really understand it, right? Try to really figure it out. And it's not something that I would be jumping into right now. You have to understand why it moved, why people were buying it. Look, you have an issue right here, and maybe it keeps going. It looks like earnings came out, right? 570 and 567. And it looks like it doesn't really like the earnings report. So I would see how that plays out before I jump into it. That wouldn't be something I'd be rushing into. And you cover AMD. Let's just keep going here. All right, let me get through some of these others. UPST and Merck. Let's cover those. UPST. So I think you're trying to build a base here. I know a lot of people were excited because of this company's earnings, and they're extrapolating it out to this company. I'm not so sure I'm in 100% of agreement with that. Maybe it benefits it, maybe it doesn't, but that doesn't look like something that I would be buying. I can't break above the 21-day, the 8's pointing down. It looks like I'm going to here, frankly. And, I did do a trade in it yesterday, like a really small one. It just didn't work. And now we're going to have to kind of see how it goes, but it's not something that, I want to look at. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just not a big fan here. Like, there's too much else going on that I would be focused on. It's got to do something. And I'm coming into earnings. Like, do I really want to be involved in all that? It's something. Merck, let's cover Merck. Yeah, I mean, like, I guess this is getting what it's supposed to get. I mean, look, I don't know if the approval went or it's just moved on earnings. That's a pretty big move. When that news hits, it's what's going to affect the stock. When they get approved or disapproved or not approved, or what the caveats are, that's when it's going to get. That's when it's going to get very, very interesting, to say the least. So, let's just do PLNHF. Oh boy. Planet Holdings. I wouldn't go near this. I mean, you're just straight down. There's really no reason to buy this unless you know something or think you know something. I would avoid that. It's not something I would go near. AMD. Yeah, I can cover AMD route. So your AMD, you're running right into that level, right? Look, wick rejection. I mean, it's telling you, it's telegraphing it, right? It's telling you everything you need to hear. You just have to listen to it. It's telling you that it's breaking. So you just have to pay attention. Now, why that's breaking and why this looks great, I couldn't tell you. Maybe because they're not having supply issues like we think they are, right? And if that's the case, this could be a monster. And that's kind of what I'm thinking, right? I'm kind of thinking that NVIDIA is going to come out and talk about that maybe they're not going to have issues. And if we flip this level, which I think you're going to, frankly, because how we're building here, that's just going to explode up. So I don't understand why this is doing this. The news was good. The earnings were excellent. I mean, you could see the growth. I don't understand why it's doing that, but it's not my question of why. I just have to protect my capital. So I would watch that. I'm going to have to just jump ahead here and just get to the ones. MMAT ran because they thought it was the new name. I I mean, it's just tiny little stock. I mean, I wouldn't even play with it. It wouldn't even be on my radar, frankly. Maybe it works. Facebook D, I think it's a short. I think it's an outright short. I mean, I don't even want to get into the fundamental story again. I mean, it's just so ridiculous. We're going to change the world by showing how you can put on an astronaut suit on the internet. Like, it's just, maybe I'm old, but like to me, it just screams desperation. But getting to this level, I think it's a short. I've been saying this since here. I've been saying it's a short since here. And I still think it's a short. I think that these social media companies need to pay attention to why they're losing people and really focus on that. So, because it could be something great and it's not. Do I think Apple and Amazon can drag the market down? I think we're going higher, Brian. I mean, look, I think we're going higher. Do I think that the Qs are going to come in today a little bit because of that? Yeah. Do I think they're going to stay down? I don't know. I mean, look, Brian, and this is a really good point and something I probably should end with, but I'll take like one or two more questions since I started late. Look, I mean, you broke out yesterday. Okay. The low of that was, 381.15. Okay. Where you at right now? 381.22. I mean, that tells you pretty much everything you need to know, right? So far, we can't even take out the lower low, and Amazon and Apple missed earnings, right? So, I mean, I'll say it again. Amazon and Apple missed earnings, and we're not even taking out the lower low from a high break yesterday. We should be getting smacked. Instead, we're down like 78 basis points, right? If the market wanted to sell, we'd be down 2 or 3%. We're not. So we're not. And some of the big tech names are actually bidding up. NVIDIA's bidding up. Tesla's bidding up. I mean, so I don't see it lasting. Oh, snog. I don't know what snog is. Marry or avoid. Oh, I got it. I got it now. Thanks for clarifying that. I'm not going to have time to go through all these. I'll do Roku very quickly. I think it's important. You tried to rally, break through the 50-day. You were unable to. You're coming into earnings. I'd be really careful with this coming into earnings. With the way people think that it trades like Snap and trades like some of these other names, and maybe people have unplugged a little bit more than we know. So I'd be really careful with that going into earnings. Apple calls. I think you could buy Apple calls today. I think you could buy Apple calls today on a dip for next week. Yeah, I do think that. Through 1100, Bob, I'd be looking at them. Through 1100, I'd be looking at them. Until then, I wouldn't go near it. Bros, I covered earlier, and I think that you are a little toppy. I'd watch that gravestone. Affirm, tell me what you think about those last 3 candles. I see there's strength. Is that a pattern? On Affirm? Really? I mean, look. Let's get rid of this line, okay? I mean, what do we have? Wick after wick after wick after wick. I mean, look, eventually, if it breaks that, that's great. Let it go. But let it break before you get involved with it. That's what I'm waiting for. Texas Instruments, I thought could bounce. It failed yesterday. That was very disappointing. I thought it was going to run. It did not run. It went the other way. So if it's going to go the other way, just get out of the way until it figures out what it wants to do. Right now, you have a bear flag, even though that's not in there. So I would avoid this. So it's not something that I would go near. So I know that's what threw me off snog, but now at least I know what it means. So yeah, you're welcome, Bob. All right, I am out of here. Everybody have a great trading day. If you need me, as always, just email me. Have a great day, everyone. Let's get to it.